So the story we are going to talk about today, I honestly can't believe that more people don't know about it. And the way that I found out about it, dear God, this is going to be rough. That's how we start this. So I was on a walk, just like a normal day, and I'm listening to Bailey Sarian.
Yep.
And just like a random one that I chose, and this came across. And it's literally one of the most gruesome. I'm sorry, both the cases I'm covering is pretty gruesome.
Motherfucker, Natalie, come on.
It's really gruesome, but there's one thing in the case that has always stuck with me. But for some reason, like I literally could not remember the name of the murderer, so I couldn't put it on the podcast because, I mean, honestly, who the fuck cares the name of him? But I wanted to cover it here, and I could not find it. And all of a sudden the other day, I was listening to her, and it popped up.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, we're going to cover this. This case has literally haunted me for 365 days, and now I'm going to make it haunt you guys. So
Wonderful.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad.
But before we get into that, my name's Natalie.
I'm Erika, and this is Drunken True Crime.
For those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much. We do not deserve you.
No, we do not.
So before we get in the case, we do have a few disclaimers. So if you're new, listen up. We do go through them quickly. 1, we talk about true crime. 2, we drink. 3, we cuss. 4, you might see us laugh. But hey, it's because we're human, and it's because we're typically making fun of each other or the asshat criminals in this case, but never the victims.
Never the victims.
So if that sounds like something you will enjoy, then grab your cocktail and come drink with us. So this week, Erika, what cocktail do we have?
I don't know. What is it?
A strawberry basil spritzer.
Oh my God, you fucking just told me that too. And I was like, what's the name?
That's okay. Cheers.
Strawberry basil spritzer, but with vodka in it. Mm-hmm. And I brought my reusable straw.
I know, you're so fancy. I wish I had one. I had one now. Oh, good.
I mean, I keep it in my purse for everything.
That's smart. Honestly.
And it makes me feel like fancy because it has pineapples on it.
I know. That's really cute. Very summery. I approve. Mm-hmm. So, Erika, how many martini glasses? The drink?
I would say 4.
Ooh.
Like it's so just like light, refreshing, especially when we're almost to summer. But in Tennessee, it feels like fucking summer.
It's freaking June 15th. This is summer.
I think summer officially starts June 21st.
Yeah, but it's been summer for a minute here. Actually, it's not been a bad summer yet.
It has not. Like, it was cold in May.
Yeah, it was. Memorial Day weekend was cold. Yeah. Anywho, so enough of the chit-chat. We're going to jump into this case.
I mean, we can continue chit-chatting.
Yeah. So, forewarning, like I said, this case is pretty rough. As always, we're going to go into the details of the case because you have to understand how horrible of a human being this dude is that did this, and we feel like you should really understand what the victims went through and hear their story. With that being said, take this as your formal warning that we will be talking about SA, torture, and even more gruesome details than that.
Wonderful.
So, and last but not least, let's take a big, healthy swig of our cocktails before we get into it.
I mean, I've been taking a big, healthy swig.
You need to take a bigger one because you're going to need it, girl.
It's so light and refreshing, ladies.
Actually, has a lot of vodka in there, so.
And gentlemen.
So, this week, we're going to talk about the douche canoe that goes by Gary, his fucking last name.
So,
Heidnik. That's just, that like does not roll off the top. Heidnik? Anyways, his name's Gary Heidnik. Who gives a fuck? He isn't well known when it comes to murderers, which, again, is kind of surprising to me because he did some absolutely horrific things. And again, honestly, before Bailey Sarian, I had never even heard of this case, which is kind of crazy because we are in the, obviously, true crime community. But it's honestly really sad because I think everyone should know about Gary, but more so his victims, what they went through, and they deserve justice. So,
I mean, I hear different cases all the time of just like serial killers, and it's always the main ones that you remember. But like some of the serial killers that just like randomly pop up that had happened like decades ago.
Yeah.
They did worse things.
Yeah. This honestly, like, do you know much about this case?
No, I know nothing about this case.
Ew. Well, you're going to hate me after this one, so sorry. Just look at Miller if you hate me.
Miller.
That'll make you happy.
Oh my God.
Oh God, don't get him. Yeah. Anyway, so first things first, I know you hate this, Erika, but we're going to talk about Gary.
Fuck.
I know.
Why?
I know, because you just need to know a little bit of background on him. We're not going to go into a lot of detail, but just a little bit.
So Gary Michael Heidnik was born on November 22nd, 1943. The 1900s, like we were born in.
I know.
To Michael and Ellen Heidnik.
Yeah, that's Ellen.
Ellen, yeah. That girl. In Eastlake, Ohio. His parents would go on to get divorced when he was just a baby. Things didn't really get much better for him, and from the get-go, homeboy wasn't much to talk about. I mean, he's not really much to talk about now either.
No, he's not.
He ended up dropping out of public high school in the 9th grade and was sent to Staten? Yeah, military academy where he attended for 2 years, but ended up dropping out before graduation. So clearly he is a closer. He really goes for things.
Yeah, what a fucking asshole.
Now Gary claims that his upbringing was very difficult. He stated that his dad would publicly humiliate him when he was a child for wetting his bed. Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
Allegedly, whenever Gary would wet the bed, his dad would make him hang his sheets outside for the whole neighborhood to see so that his son would be publicly shamed for wetting his bed. I mean, I would just be like, it's dad, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, but honestly, like,
I mean, that is
pretty horrific.
That's
if it
humiliating.
happened. Yeah.
Now, Gary's dad denies this, but Gary is adamant. So who knows? Who knows what's going on with this dude's brain?
I mean, I honestly, it's 50-50 whether I believe him or not on this one. I mean.
If it is true, though, that's really sad, like we've said.
Yeah.
However, I don't really feel that bad for Gary, but maybe for baby Gary.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah, baby Gary, not who he became.
Yeah, because he became the ultimate scum of the earth, shit stain of a human being. That's why we call baby Gary.
Yeah.
Anyways, after dropping out of the military academy, Gary decided he was going to join the army. Okay, so why would you want to join the army after you just dropped out of the military academy? Don't you think it's just going to be as strict?
Yeah, so I don't really know what went on at the military academy. Like, the military academy, I feel like, was one of those, like, for kids, like, whip them into shape type thing. But he actually goes on.
He's not going to do that?
Well, just wait. He's not a smart. Well, actually, he's a very smart cookie, but
wait. He just wanted to kill people, probably. He would go on to become a medic in the U.S. Army for a whopping 14 months before being honorably discharged after officially being diagnosed with schizo personality disorder.
Yeah, so when researching this case, he actually did really well in the Army. So he was doing really well if you talk to, it's not their boss, Erika. What is it? Like their lieutenant, their commander, their...
it's staff sergeant.
Yeah. If you talk to the people that he reported to, I obviously don't know much about the armed forces. That's embarrassing. But if you talk to the people he reported to, they said that he was excellent. Like they had all good things to say about him. And the reason he was honorably discharged is because not for some reason, we obviously know why, but he started getting like really horrible like headaches, and he was very nauseous, and he was like really, really sick. And so when he was going through, he eventually gets diagnosed with, basically, for lack of medical terminology, like excessive diarrhea. And not like IBS, like it's something more than that. But during all of the testing, this is when they found out that he had
schizo
personality disorder, and he had the mental issues. So like before that, no one knew. Is that not crazy? And he was doing really well in the Army, surprisingly enough.
I mean, that's just your third dropout.
I know. But like, technically,
there's a pattern here.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes. And I'm not standing up for Gary. Not one bit. He can go fuck himself.
There's just a pattern there. I mean, also, John Wayne Gacy, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think he was in the Army as well, or he was in Vietnam or something. Yeah. And he did very well. Yeah. And it was because he killed all those people. Yeah. And maybe, the same thing, he wanted to...
Yeah. He was a medic, though. I guess he could not save them. And
exactly.
That's kind of like killing them.
What's the term for doctors that purposely want to kill their patients. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Angel something.
Yeah, something like that. I know.
Where they either save them or they want to kill them.
Yeah, like they make them sick so they can save them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, after he was honorably discharged, Gary then became a nurse and began working at the Elwyn Institute. Wow, why was that so hard for me to say?
Elwyn.
I wanted to say like institution, and then I fucked them both up, both words. But the Elwyn Institute. Anyways, this was a hospital for mentally undeveloped adults and children, which again was kind of fitting because Gary himself and his family, especially his brother Terry and his mom Ellen, all suffered from mental illness and spent time in
psychiatric hospitals.
Oh my God, get fucked. Psychiatric hospitals. Why is this so hard? Why are words so hard right now? Anyways, then when Gary was 27, his mom Elaine would eventually. No,
Elaine?
that's Ellen. Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna start that one up.
No, keep it.
Okay, so when Gary was, this is actually kind of sad, but when Gary was 27, his mom Ellen would eventually go. Yeah, it's tomato. Would eventually go on to commit suicide as a last resort to escape from her abusive relationship. So again, very sad. We're only laughing because I can't speak or read, evidently. So from there, at the age of 28, Gary formed a church called the United Church of the Ministries of God. Nope, Ministers of God. Okay, I'm going to take a drink. Hold on.
Yeah, you should take a drink, breathe, take a laxative or something.
So anyways, let me try that again.
Or not a laxative. I meant Xanax.
I was going to say, I was like, I don't want a laxative. What the fuck? Oh my God, I just spit. This is such a shit show. Can you tell we have not filmed in over a month?
I like it.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a great one.
This is really us, guys.
Yeah. Oh, anywho. Okay, so again, at the age of 28, Gary formed a church called the United Church of the Ministers of God. And now, just a side note, this is Gary, he's such a shithead. He actually just took this name from an actually pretty large church. So, like, if you ever, like, see this somewhere, like, the name of this church, it's not associated with Gary. He's just an asshole and stole their name, okay? Like, I'm sure.
So, like, one of those really, really big churches you would see on TV or something?
Right, yes. Yes, and he just stole the name because he's a fucking shithead. Anyways.
Can you do that? Can you, like, copyright anything?
I mean, do you really think he followed the law?
I mean, probably not, obviously, but that big a church, I would feel like they would be able to, like, trademark that name or something.
Well, yeah. Well, he had all of 5 followers, so I don't think they were too worried at the time.
Oh, we have more.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Yes, we're above Gary.
So he had 5 followers when it started, and he was known to them as Brother Bishop, which, fucking Lord have mercy. He would go on to grow it, though, to be pretty big. But at the beginning, he had 5 followers, so I don't think they were too worried.
From there, he met Anjanette Davison. Did I say that right?
Anjanette.
Okay. From there, he met Anjanette Davison at one of the psychiatric institutions he worked at. He was actually a patient at the hospital along with her sister, Alberta. Now, Anjanette was mentally disabled and had an IQ of 48, which for those of you that don't really know the IQ classifications, 69 and below is considered extremely low, and the DSM classifies the score as mental retardation. And that's still in the DSM. That's not like what we're calling it.
Yes, no.
Anjanette and Gary would go on to have a little girl named Maxine.
I love that name.
But she was immediately taken away into foster care after her birth due to Anjanette's mental disabilities.
Yeah, and something else to add to this, and I guess I just forgot to put it in here, but Gary was actually extremely smart. So on the IQ scale, he was actually above average, like significantly above average. And so he was praying. So again, now remember, we just told you that Anjanette had a sister named Alberta who was in the same institution as she was, which was also the one that Gary had been to and was now working at.
So they were both patients.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Actually, all 3 of them were patients, but then Gary
was working there
to work there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when he became a nurse. So, like, after he was honorably discharged, that's when he had that mental diagnosis, and then he came out of that, became a nurse, and now he works there. So, in 1978, Gary signed Alberta out of this institution on a day pass and ended up imprisoning her for 10 days. So, again, a day pass where normally someone would take them out to do something fun, right?
Yeah. Go to a restaurant.
Yeah, like, go to a park. Go, just get a break from the institution, which not saying it was bad, but, it's nice to get out. He literally kept her for 10 fucking days. So this shithead took her, chained her in his basement, and spent 10 days essaying. I can't wink. I just figured out I can't wink with that eye. Essaying her.
Saying a horrific thing, but you're doing this.
I'm trying to wink to tell you that you guys know what we're talking about.
Right.
And I don't know if I can say this word either, but sodomizing her. I mean, I can say it. I'm saying on YouTube, can I say it? But I can pronounce it, but can I say it? But yeah. So anyways, asshole was doing horrible things to her. Eventually, the workers at the institution were like, okay, where the fuck is Alberta? She was signed out on a day pass, and it's been 10 days. Why the fuck it took 10 days? I have no fucking idea, but here we are.
So isn't it frowned upon to, like, be a nurse and, like, date or be in a relationship with someone and also...
Dude, I know. This is where there's so many questions. So many
holes in this.
Yeah. The workers, they finally step in, and she's eventually found shackled in Gary's house, where she is then taken back to the institution. And to that, all I have to say is that everyone failed this poor girl.
Now she's even more traumatized.
Yeah. Fucking ridiculous.
Now, you would think that this would be automatically get Gary sentenced to prison for life, but no. Gary was put in a mental institution instead of a prison, where he would only go to spend 4 fucking years before he was released in April 1983.
That's fucking ridiculous.
You stole a woman from a psychiatric hospital, take her to your basement and
shackle her
and do just horrible unimaginable things to this woman, and then just go 4 years. Go about your day.
Oh, that's okay. We'll just give you 4 years. You've learned your lesson. Fucking A. Obviously, he did not, or we would not be talking about him right here.
No. From there, in 1984, he bought a property at 3520 North Marshall Street, which is where we went on a run. Oh, where he went on to run his church. I was like, where we went on a run?
No, we have never been there, in fact.
No. Where he went to run his church. Now, this property becomes important later in the story, so remember that. Keep it in your brain.
Yes. So from here, Gary would go on to use a bride mail service to meet his wife, Betty, who is from the Philippines. Now, I don't know. Some people say she wasn't a mail bride, but...
Mail order bride.
Yeah. But,
is that still politically correct to call that?
I mean, I don't know.
I feel like you can't say anything nowadays.
Yeah.
So I'm just like...
I mean, you know what we're saying. I'm not throwing any shade at her. But soon after they got married, the two began fighting because Gary was a fucking asshole and would cheat on Betty and then force her to have sex with the women he was cheating on her with, and then force her to watch as he had sex with other women. It's just ridiculous. He would also go on to beat, essay, and torture Betty. And luckily, after 3 months, she would actually escape Gary and flee back to the Philippines.
Oh, thank goodness.
I know, right? Now, unbeknownst to Gary at the time, though, Betty was actually pregnant. And once homegirl was safe from Gary, she filed for child support, which is how Gary found out that he was the father, which I was like, what a badass bitch. Girl. Get your bag. I love it. However, though, no shocker here, Gary had no relationship with his son, which honestly is a huge blessing. Like
that is a huge blessing. I mean,
for both Betty and the child. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no reason Gary needed to be around a child.
This would be the turning point in Gary's pathetic excuse of a life. Wow, harsh, Natalie.
Well, you'll understand why in just a second.
And where things would really go downhill for both Gary and society. On Thanksgiving of 1986, a 25-year-old sex worker named Josephine Riviera was working to get enough money to give her children a proper Thanksgiving dinner. No, she was estranged from her children due to her drug abuse, but she was working to try and mend the relationships and have a family holiday, which it just hurts my heart. I mean, she was working. She was working to mend those relationships.
Yeah. And just asshat.
Now, at this time, Gary fucktard Heidnik was out trolling the streets in areas known to have sex workers. This is where he comes across Josephina. Gary offers her his money in exchange for sex, so Josephina agrees and gets into Gary's white Cadillac.
So the two, at this point, they do the deed, and then from there, thank you for that imagery. Oh my God. And then from there, the details are contradictory, obviously, depending on what articles you're reading. But long story short, Gary basically kidnaps Josephina, chokes her, beats her, and takes her back to his place. Now, he places her in his basement, which he has dug this hole, or really like a pit in the middle of the basement. And it's not like super big.
Is it Silence of the Lambs?
Not that deep. Like it almost is like a shallow grave. If that makes sense.
That's worse.
Yeah. Yeah. So what he did is he chained her into this pit, and he had allegedly built this pit in order to house women to help him grow his family, telling Josephina that he planned to capture 10 women for his harem. So basically he was trying to create a baby farm. He just wanted to impregnate lots of women. No words. Okay, so now we want to talk about this pit for a second, because it's actually very terrifying, and it was the inspiration of the movie Silence of the Lambs, but they took, obviously, liberties with this pit. Now, he did dig, it's pretty big, like pretty wide, into this concrete floor, and this is where he actually chained Josephina to a sewer pipe.
Oh, gross.
I know. He then covered the hole with plywood and put heavy bags on top to prevent her from escaping. Yes. Now, Josephina, she's obviously terrified, scared, and trying any and all methods possible to escape this horror that she found herself in. She would actually manage to lift herself halfway through a small window in his basement, where she screamed for help, but unfortunately the only person that heard her was Gary. Now, Gary responded to this, her escape attempt, by bringing in a radio and playing rock music, which he turned up on full volume to drown out like Josephina's screams, which over time would just be horrible. It's a form of torture. So
that's definitely Silence of the Lambs when Buffalo Bill, the women were downstairs chained and they were yelling for help, and he just was dressing in dresses and played the music louder.
Yeah. So he then left Josephina alone for 27 hours, and when he returned, he was not alone.
This time, he returned to a 25-year-old Sandra Lindsay, who went by Sandy. She was also a patient at Elwyn Institute. Remember the institute that Gary worked at? You think these people would fucking catch on by now. Or at least do, some due diligence. And
why was he not fired after taking homegirl out for 10 years? Or for 10 days?
Right?
What the fuck?
Once again, Gary checked her out and brought her to his house, where he put her in a hole or pit, whatever you want to call it, and essayed her and Josephina at the same time.
Well, no, he would make the women watch while he did it. Yeah.
God.
And listen, and it's horrific.
He would make the women watch and listen as he would essay the other woman he had kidnapped. Now, after Sandy was checked out of the institute, her family became suspicious, and her cousins actually went to Gary's house and knocked on the door. However, after a while of them knocking with no answer, the cousins left. After that, Gary made Sandy write a letter to her mom telling her she had left the institute on her own free will and that she would call her later. Gary would actually make the drive from Philadelphia to New York to mail the letter in hopes that it wouldn't be traced back to him. First off, how did they find his house?
Because they knew. So, oh my God. So Gary worked at the Elwyn Institute.
I know.
And it was known they were friends, him and Sandy were friends. And so her mom knew this because Sandy talked to her about it. And so her mom knew, hey, tell me Gary's house, where he lives. Fucking A. He's got my daughter. Why are you guys not more alarmed?
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Now, Sandy's mother immediately called bullshit on all of this and reported her daughter missing and gave them Gary's address, stating she believed Gary was holding her hostage. However, the police took one look at the letter Sandy wrote to her mother and immediately brushed it off as just another runaway.
Because, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
no,
because
this guy doesn't have a history. This isn't on his record that he does this. This isn't his MO, but no, you're right. It's her.
Just another runaway. How many times have we heard that? And
oh, my God. So many.
So many cases that we've covered.
So many. It's so frustrating.
So, once again, another instance of where this woman was failed by the police. The mental institution and humanity.
Now, during this time when these women were kept captive, they were shackled, beaten, essayed constantly, and kept naked where they were forced to huddle together to keep warm. They were kept severely dehydrated and in a constant state of starvation, even to the point where he would like pin them against each other and like basically was like, okay, who wants a cookie? And whoever would like have sex with him like voluntarily that day would like get cookies and like just do these awful like mental like tactics. At one point he heard one of the girls, I mean, I don't know this, I'm gonna like butcher the story, but off the top of my head it's basically he like heard one of the girls say, I'm so hungry I could eat like dog food. So then he literally started feeding them dog food because he's a fucking asshole. Okay, on that note, 5 big gulps.
Let's fucking go
because we need it.
Woo!
Cheers
bitches. Now I'm officially out of my drinky drink.
So then on December... Yeah, I said that word right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, my brain.
You did.
So then on December 22nd, Gary kidnapped another woman, 19-year-old Lisa Thomas.
Why are they getting younger?
I don't know. Oh, God. I don't know.
You didn't think
he's
about
such
that?
a sick fuck. No, I didn't. I did not. Anyway, so he drugged her, and when she woke up, she was naked, and Gary was essaying her. From there, he took her and pushed her into the pit with Josephina and Sandy. So then, just 2 weeks later, on New Year's Day, Deborah Dudley was kidnapped by Gary and brought to this pit of horror. She was 19 at the time, and she is reported to be actually very feisty and have like a huge attitude with Gary, which I'm like, fuck yeah. I mean, honestly, let's take a minute to applaud this brave woman.
Yes, girl. You got courage, your bravery.
Yeah, I honestly don't think I'd have the balls to do that to someone. But no, she did. So, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't do it. I think you would. I don't think you would have a fucking problem standing up to him. I'd be too scared, though.
I mean, if he's going to kill me, then, I mean, let's get it over with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would, you would have the attitude with him.
Let's go, okay?
Yeah. Oh.
It's reported that Deborah would scream at Gary, spit at him, tell him that he needed a shower. I so would fucking do this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Telling him that he needed to shower, needed tampons, a proper place to use the restroom. And long story short, she was very confrontational to Gary, wasn't really scared of him. Or if she was, she put up a hell of a front, girl.
Yeah. So, like, basically she was like, you're an asshole. You smell. You're making us smell like we need tampons.
Living conditions is not up to par.
Yeah,
Gare Bear, okay?
Like, we need a restroom. Like, we need all of these things. Like, you disgusting human being. I hate him.
Like, I need to shower. I know I smell bad. I know you smell bad.
But you really need to shower.
The other two homegirls over there, they need showers. Yes. They need to be cleaned up. They need some food. Chop, chop, Gary. Okay,
yeah,
let's go.
Fucking get on it.
Now, surprisingly, Gary actually took some of this to heart. He ended up to get a portable toilet for the women, gave them tampons, and actually let them take a bath.
I'm not clapping for Gary. Fuck that shit. We'll clap. Okay, how about let's clap for Deborah?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were clapping
for her that she spoke. Raise your voice, girls. This was very out of character, but again, Gary was very unpredictable. One minute he would give them tampons, another minute he would beat them senseless and force them to watch while he essayed the other women. At one point, he realized that the women could hear when he left the house and when he was coming downstairs. So when he left...
Let me do this part, Erika. You'll murder me if I make you do this part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, trust me.
Okay.
You don't want to say this part. This is the part that I'm like, has stuck with me for 365 days, and now I'm going to make it haunt all of you guys.
Wonderful.
So, again, Gary eventually realized that the woman could hear when he left the house and when he was coming down the stairs, and he was like, okay, if they can hear when I'm gone, they'll start screaming. I don't want that. So when he left, the women would scream, trying to get the attention of anyone who could help them. Again, Gary eventually caught on to this and was furious. So this horrible piece of shit human being, and again, legit, like, huge trigger warning for you guys on this one. I even put it in here. I was like, Erika, you cannot say this part. So if it's your slide, turn it over to Natalie right now.
I'm glad you did. Thank you. Thank you.
So Gary drove screwdrivers into the women's ears to puncture their eardrums so they couldn't hear him. Exactly why I told you not to take this part. Again, this is the part that has stuck with me for 365 days, and now it'll stick with you guys. So, I mean, don't hate me, but trauma bonding together. It's a thing.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah.
So he would screw drive to puncture their
He literally
eardrum?
took a screwdriver and, like, hammered it in to their eardrum to bust their eardrum so they could not hear. So they could not scream when he left. My point. Yeah. I told you were going to hate me for this one. Now, this was only one way that Gary punished the girls. As we've talked about, he would beat and essay them, force them to watch the others be essayed, but he would also chain them standing up with their arms above their head for days and literally starve them. Now, I know we already did one, but with this case, we need to do another one. So, Erika, I'll go get you another drink because we're about to do 5 big gulps, okay? So, break. Okay, so, anyways, we're back for 5 big gulps. So, Erika.
Let's fucking go! 5 big gulps!
Cheers,
bitches! It's a lot easier with my straw to do 5 big gulps.
Yeah, that was rough.
I feel like I need to get us some matching ones.
Yes. Oh my God, I would love that. Okay, hold on. I think the camera's crooked.
Do you remember the last time it was like filmed crooked? I'm surprised nobody pointed that out.
It was way worse than that, Erika. I even tried to like fix it in the editing process, and it was just, anyways. So that I'm scarred. Okay. Anyways, so we're back from 5 big gulps.
Woo-hoo!
Because once again, it gets worse.
Yay!
So on January 18th, Gary abducted 18-year-old. Again,
they're getting younger.
Yeah. So Gary abducted 18-year-old Jacqueline Askins. She was also a sex worker and he used the same ruse he had with several of the other women. Again, he picked them up, lured him back to his house with the promise of money. He would then go upstairs, have sex with them, and then he would strangle them and drug them and then put them into the pit where he would chain them up to join the rest of the women.
Now, at this point, he had 5 women in his pit of horrors. At some point, Sandy had done something to disobey him, and she was punished by being chained to a beam naked with her wrists shackled above her head in a standing position. He then starved her for days on end, so she was in the standing position for a fucking week without food, water, or any rest periods.
I hate this fucking human. He's not even human, this monster.
This is just pure evil is what this
Yeah,
is. Because
it is.
when we took our break, I was like racking my brain at the whole screwdriver thing.
Yeah.
There was multiple other ways he could have gone about that, like maybe soundproofing the room. Like what is your first thought to think a screwdriver to your eardrum?
He's sadistic.
Disorient them in some way so they can't hear. Play loud music before you leave. Soundproof that room.
Yeah, so many other fucking let them go so they won't scream.
Well, I understand that, but like I'm trying to think in his mind, like
what he could have
done, but then he just automatically thought, screwdriver to the ear.
Because he's fucking sadistic and he's a horrible, horrible monster. I told you this is a rough case. How do more people not know about this?
Well, this is gonna fuck me up because me and you both think alike, where we think, why is he doing what he's doing, and then you're getting into the mindset of him.
Yes.
Which is what I was spiraling after you said that, and I'm like,
I'm telling you, we're trauma bonding over this case.
We're very trauma bonding.
It's fucking horrible.
So after a week, Gary decided that she had had enough punishment. Way to go. And he went to go release her from the chains and provide her with food and water. What a fucking gentleman.
I know. Oh, my God.
The man of my dreams. Oh, you had enough, honey. You've suffered enough. So he takes her down and he immediately realizes that she had passed. So again, just when you think the story can't get worse, it does. So ladies, gents, whatever you identify, get your drink, buckle up, buttercup, because we are going to power through this part real quick together. Okay?
Another trigger warning, because I feel like this whole episode we're just going to keep saying
Wait,
this.
is this going to fuck me up too?
Not as bad as the screwdriver was the one that like really got me. This is horrific, don't get me wrong, but the screwdriver got me. This one, we've heard things like this before.
Okay.
So Gary takes Sandy's body upstairs and starts dismembering her body. But he doesn't do this alone. He makes the other women help. He then told them if he ever got caught, they would now be charged with murder too because they helped. He then proceeds to cook Sandy's body, like he legitimately boiled her head, which produces just this horrendous smell that eventually led neighbors to complain to police. Now, police do actually show up to the house, but Gary just tells them that he burnt a roast. And they fucking buy this explanation. Again, just another example of where these women were failed.
What kind of roast do they have at home?
I know. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, you're a police officer. More than once you've smelled a decaying or
Yes.
dead body or just like the horrendous smell
Right.
of human beings rotting.
Right. But no,
And
you're
then
right.
if
It's a burnt roast.
bowling, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's just amplified at that point.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. So from there, Gary then grinds her body up into minced fucking meat and feeds this not only to his dog, but to the other women in the pit. Again, I know you're going to hate me for covering this case, but Erika, if it makes you feel better, I kind of hate myself at this moment too. So
Good, you should.
But again, like I said, I just can't believe that this case doesn't get more coverage. Like, how do 6 African-American women get fucking tortured like this and it isn't covered more?
Because of what exactly you just said.
I know, but it's just fucking ridiculous.
Because exactly what you just said.
I mean, thank you, Bailey Sarium, for bringing light to it. That's how I came across it. But, like, jeez, Manice.
I mean, it's just like Shanquilla.
Yeah.
She wasn't a sex worker, and
Right.
they still had to fight tooth and nail to get her case, like,
Yeah, I mean, she was a
covered.
successful businesswoman.
Exactly.
Like,
Sex
yeah.
workers, just like in New Orleans.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, there was 27 women that we still don't know who all killed those women.
Oh, you're so right. I know. It's fucking ridiculous.
It's deplorable. Okay. Let me take a drink first. All right. So next, Deborah does something to piss Gary off, and she is now punished because Gary has a small dick syndrome and is just as pathetic excuse of a human being, like legitimately worse than any bully stick dog shit diarrhea that someone has to scrape off their shoe.
That's poetry right there, guys.
That is straight up poetry. So for...
Sorry, I fucking hate this man. I fucking hate this man. So this is my script that I wrote, and I literally cannot. I mean,
She just shot for the hip with this one.
I can't fucking stand him.
I mean, that deserves a award.
Thank you. Pulitzer, if you will.
Yeah, Pulitzer. Coming for you. So for her punishment, Deborah is made to sit in a pool of water and would place a wire in the water, which electrocuted her.
Yeah.
Now, he also did this with the other women, but unfortunately this time it would result in Deborah's death. He took Deborah's body and disposed of her in the woods. Again,
I can't.
Okay.
I know Erica's just now. So I've had a year to process this case. This is exactly what I was like literally on a walk in my neighborhood, and I was like, what the fuck do I do with how do I just walk back into my house normal like this? I'm like forever changed.
How do we go normal?
Yeah,
but like
I can't function
you
like a human being.
dismember and boil the head of one woman that you had in the pit, and you electrocute another and just throw her in the woods like she's trash.
Yep. Yeah.
Shocking twist here. Josephina actually helped him electrocute Deborah and dispose of her body, meaning she was free from her shackles and was assisting him.
Yeah, so this will become really important later. in this story.
But she wasn't free. I mean,
right.
Just like when they helped with Sandy.
Yeah, right. You're right. She wasn't free. She was free from her shackles. Like she was.
Yeah, I mean,
right, but she was not free.
She was still terrified. So if she didn't help, I'm sure she would probably be next.
Yes. Yep. No. Absolutely. So, but this gets people heated, and actually people are on two different sides here. So we're going to take a second. We're going to talk a little bit about Josefina again. So over the course of this 50 plus days that Josefina was held captive, she started developing a plan to escape. She decided to befriend her captor because she quickly realized that Gary was desperate for companionship, and ultimately all he wanted was children and a family.
Smooth that ego, girl.
Oh my God, yeah. Yep. So Josefina immediately played this new role, and Gary 100% fell for it.
Of course he did.
Over a few days and weeks, Gary actually began to trust her. Now she was allowed to come upstairs unchained and actually watch movies with him, and was able to sleep outside of the pit some days. And eventually he made her in charge of the other women. So he would reward her with food and chocolates for managing the other women, which again is pitting the women against each other. So Gary actually even recruited Josefina to help him kidnap other women. So on March 24th, Gary and Josefina abducted another woman named Agnes Adams. And once again, Gary did the exact same thing with Agnes, where he would take her to her room, he would have sex with her, and when he went to pay her, he instead strangled her, drugged her, and put her down in the pit with the other women. Now, mind you, during this time, Josefina was actually in the kitchen, unchained, again, not in the pit with the other women. Like I said a little bit, or alluded to a little bit earlier, Josefina gets quite a bit of heat for this because she was upstairs, clothed, unchained, and at times there were instances where she could have absolutely run away.
It's Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, well, but
and remember, also survival.
It wasn't Stockholm syndrome. This was an act that she was putting on.
Well, yeah, it's Stockholm syndrome to like what he thinks of it, but it was survival.
So you're saying she was like tricking him into believing that she had Stockholm syndrome, but she knew all along this was just
this is her way of survival.
Right, exactly. Completely agree with that. So again, she knew that if she ran away, he would immediately kill all the other women and probably just dip out and not get arrested for this. So again, and Erica and I are on the same page. Like no victim shaming here because a lot of people do blame her for this.
Why would you blame someone?
You can't.
You don't know what you would do in this situation.
Well, she had a plan. She was the only one who could act on that plan because she was the only one out there. She could have run away, and she did not.
Right.
Remember this. She did not run away when she easily could have saved herself.
Right.
Okay? So that, I think, right there just shows that she was looking out for everyone in that pit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Josefina gained the trust of Gary at this point, obviously. So she eventually convinced Gary to let her see her family, specifically her children. In exchange for him allowing this, she said she would bring back another woman for him. Gary allows this and drops her off to see her family. She immediately bangs on the door, and they are quite surprised to see her. I mean, she had just been gone for 4 months, and because of her history, they thought she was just on another drug bender.
No.
Josefina starts telling them what Gary had done to her, and honestly, they think it's just the drugs talking and that she is making this all up. Josefina is getting pissed because she is running out of time to save the other girls. And after begging and begging, they do eventually call the police.
Yes, because one point to this is that Gary's around the corner, right? So she knows. He basically said, okay, you have like 10 minutes to go see them, and then if you don't come back, I'm doing this, this, and this. This is a punishment, and I'm going to go kill these other girls. So she's like, okay, family.
Okay, like listen up, let's go.
I get my history. I get this, like, come on. Like,
this is not a joke. This is not an act.
Yes.
Come on.
This is not a drill.
This is not a drill.
Like, let me in. Call the fucking police.
The sirens are going off. Let's go. So when police get there, they also don't believe Josefina. Well, shocker.
I know.
Which is really fucking annoying. I mean, I get it. It's a crazy story, but it is your fucking job to at least investigate it.
Doesn't matter if you think she's making it up. Fucking investigate it.
You still have to go investigate. Finally, Josephina shows the deep scars on her legs where she has been chained up for months. This is when police finally start to take her seriously and immediately head over to Gary's house. Finally!
I know. Fucking... Ugh, that pisses me off so bad. Like, not only if like no one believes her, and it's because of her history, and I like... To some degree, I like understand
She's still human. It doesn't matter if you're homeless. It doesn't matter if you're a drug addict. It doesn't matter if you're a sex worker. She's a human being that's being tortured to death, and you just don't believe her because you don't want to do your fucking job.
I know. I mean, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But thankfully, she finally is persistent, and police officers go over to Gary's house.
That's called advocating and that's making some noise, ladies. That is making noise.
And again, she could have easily just dipped and left Gary. Like, she could have gone away, but she sat there. She argued with them, argued with the police so that they would go help the other girls. Mm-hmm. So again, if anyone that's out there that's saying this is her fault and she was in on it with Gary, you're fucking wrong.
Well, that's because people can't see like other people's perspectives, and they're not taking into account that like she's trying to save everyone.
Right, exactly. So the officers, they do eventually go to the house because she's so persistent. They walk in and they find that Josephina was telling the truth about everything, but it was way worse than they could have ever imagined. The smell, they said, was the first thing that hit them when they walked into the house. From there, they found the girls and immediately freed them and got them medical attention. Well, great. I'm so glad you fucking finally did your job.
So glad you finally did something and got them medical help.
Yep. So from there, that's when they started to truly understand the depravity and horrors that went down in that house. Miller. God, he's chewing on a bone so loud. They saw the pit that the women were kept in. They found dismembered parts of Sandy throughout the house, finding a forearm in the freezer and burnt bones in the oven. Let me try that part again.
What was he gonna do?
I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know.
Feed her to the women?
I don't know. Well, the bones maybe like for the dog, and freezing it to. I don't want to know. Don't want to know. Don't want to talk about it.
So they obviously arrest Gary, and he's taken to trial on April 23rd, 1987. This asshole tried to say that the women were already living in the house when he moved in, that it wasn't him that kidnapped him.
Yeah. So homeboy literally said during the trial, he's
like, no.
That wasn't me. They were already here.
I just
went along with it.
I just roomed with them. It's a roommate thing. They chose to live in the pit, okay?
Yeah. This is a them problem, not a me problem.
Right? However, the three women who were rescued testified against him, detailing the horrific events.
Which, let's just take a moment and talk about how fucking strong you have to be
to face him again.
Exactly. And again, let's talk about what happened to these women. Screwdrivers through their torture with music, electrocution, essaying, torturing.
Helping dismember one of the girls that you were there with.
Being forced, like starved, dehydrated. Oh my God. The list just goes on and on and on. But these badass bitches were like, no, we're testifying against you, asshole, so you don't do this again. Because last time you did something like this, you only got 4 years. We're going to make sure that doesn't fucking happen again.
They're going to make the noise and it's going to stick this time. Now, an interesting part that came out of the trial was that Lisa Thomas believed that Josephine was working with Gary.
Remember, Lisa is one of the girls that was in the pit.
The 19-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Agnes was the 18-year-old. Yeah.
That the torture and abuse she inflicted on the other women went beyond trying to build rapport with Gary and escape. However, Jacqueline disagreed. Who's Jacqueline?
So Jacqueline was one of the first ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jacqueline disagreed with Lisa and said that everything Josephina did ultimately led to the escape of all three women. Now, the defense took this and tried to blame Josephina for the deaths of Sandy and Deborah. How? How are you going to blame her?
Because she wasn't shackled. And technically, well, keep reading. Technically.
Okay. And Josephina did admit to helping with the electrocution of Deborah. However, in the long run, the jury realized that all of this happened because of Gary. And on July 1st of 1988, after just 16 hours of deliberation, they found Gary guilty and ultimately sentenced him to death.
Woo! Let's go! Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go! On July 6th of 1999, Gary Michael Heidnik was put to death by lethal injection at the age of 56, which he deserved more than a lethal injection.
I know. So, despite how you feel about the death penalty, I go back and forth. But I'm just saying, on some instances, people like this should not
just get an easy way out.
Should not breathe the same air that regular human beings do, in my opinion. Just throwing that out there. He's fucking horrific. Horrific. So not only does he do all this, he fucking blames. He fucking blames Josephina. Now, technically, Josephina was the one that electrocuted Deborah, which led to her death. However, who made her do that?
She assisted her, though. It wasn't like she was the driving force. Be like, hey, let's electrocute her.
Yep. Nope. I completely agree. So, Erika, here are some pictures.
Oh, I'm looking.
Oh, that's when they were rescued. Oh, yeah. That's all the women. But the one before that is when they, like, got pulled out and were, like, finally rescued. But they were trained to, like...
These poor babies.
I know. They're so young.
They were just so young and still children.
They absolutely were. Okay, Erika, I'm scared to ask this question, but final thoughts.
I mean, it makes sense why this hasn't been covered because it's African American sex workers.
Yeah.
Which is a very shame in our society.
Yeah.
That this isn't covered more. But on the flip side, it's not covered more, and it's a shame because the victims need to be known.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I feel like I'm glad it didn't because Gary would get the fame like Ted Bundy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like we need to stop romanticizing serial killers.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that.
Like, if anybody took that wrong, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm trying to say it in a very nice way because we just romanticize. We make people famous for murdering people, and it should be we should be putting out there what the victims went through, which is what we try to do.
Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons that we haven't covered Ted Bundy yet, that we haven't covered.
I don't want to cover any serial killers.
Yeah. Like any of these other...
I feel like they don't deserve their due at all.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And so, I mean, I do want to cover that one day.
Not anytime soon.
No, it won't be anytime soon. And it's not... And again, I want to do more cases that aren't well known. And that's... I mean, there are cases that I will absolutely do. Like, Casey Anthony, absolutely going to do that one.
Yeah, well, here's my argument. But, like, what can we say that hasn't been said already?
I honestly just want to talk to you about it.
About...
Like, go through all the details and talk to you about it. And
okay.
Like, I mean, honestly, that's why. And I am, and I don't know why we've talked about this before. I'm so fascinated with, this is going to sound horrific and not fascinated. How do I say this where I don't sound fucked up? We're
fucked up. Like, we do a true crime podcast.
Well, I'm just so interested in what happens to the brains of parents that can kill their own children.
Which is why you cover
so many children cases, and why I'm so want to know all the details about like the Chris Watts case. That's what got us into this channel in the first place. Casey Anthony. Yeah. So I'm so fascinated and just intrigued with the mind of like what happened, like what causes a parent to do that. Cause like innately you like evolutionary, well, maybe people might get mad about that word, but innately you want to keep your children alive. Like you have this tie to them. And so what causes someone who starts out that way? Like if you're just a shithead parent from the beginning, like that's fine. But what causes someone who by all, I guess,
stress.
Like, yeah, but I mean but if the people or the parents who everyone says, oh, well, they were great parents. They were this.
No one's great.
But I mean,
what does a great parent mean?
Someone that showed up for their parent. Like, what do you mean a great parent? There's great parents out there.
But like, how can you define it? A great parent is different for everybody.
Well, okay. Really?
We're going philosophy here.
Okay, well then, I'm sorry. A parent that shows up for their kids and provides for them not only physically, but mentally as well.
Emotionally and mentally as well.
Yes, exactly. A good parent through and through. So how do you go from that
to murdering them?
And it just fascinates me.
We need to cover Lori Vallow too.
Oh, I know. That's going to be a huge one. That's going to be a big one.
But back to this case.
Yes, sorry. We digress horribly. But yeah, well,
This is really gonna stick with me.
I'm telling you,
this one, and it's not the screwdriver. It's not.
That got
it's
me.
not. It's. There were so many opportunities for these women to be saved.
Yeah. Oh, I know. They were failed multiple times. So Josephina, though, she's actually married, has kids. She has 6 grandchildren now. She wrote a book.
Wow.
Right after she did struggle, she did go back to drugs. But I mean, fucking A, how do you cope with all the trauma she went with?
If you have no like normal copingisms to begin with, and that's your only coping mechanism, then like naturally you're going to go to what you know.
Right, exactly. But she said she got into the right therapy, the right treatment. She's been sober. Again, she has a husband, kids, 6 grandkids, and is, from the last thing that I saw, she's doing well. So that's good.
That's silver lining.
Yeah. I mean, all of them still suffer, obviously, horrific, just physical and mental scars, though. She still has terrible nightmares, she says. They all struggle a lot. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't, but yeah. I mean, it's a horrific case. Like I said, this one has stuck with me. It's, sorry guys, but the victims need to know what
she did it, not me.
Yeah, I know. It's my fault. You can blame me. But honestly, I do believe that we should know what these victims went through. Mm-hmm. And we need to talk about it. I know it is hard, but...
And applaud their...
bravery.
Tenacity.
Yeah. Their bravery. Yeah. It is obviously a lot. But with that being said, be a bitch and stay alive. Cheers.